The West Ham Massive are pleased to support Iron Supporting Food Banks. They are a group of West Ham fans and friends inspired by the work of other football food banks around the country. They collect food and cash donations for a Newham Food Bank in Beckton, who supplies sub-distribution centres in the borough 7 days a week and hand out several hundred 3-day emergency food packs every month to families in need. They are also working with other groups to improve conditions for vulnerable adults and children in the Newham community. You can help by making a donation to their Just Giving page. You will find the link to this in the description section of the video details in this stream. Thanks for your support. Come on, you Irons.
Massive, everywhere we go! Everywhere we go! West Ham are massive, everywhere we go! West Ham are massive, everywhere we go! Everywhere we go! West Ham are massive, everywhere we go! West Ham are massive, everywhere we go!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once more to the West Ham Massive. Thanks for joining us. Please don't forget to like, comment on and share this stream to your social media platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. And last I looked, we was on 702 subscribers. Please don't forget to hit the bell icon. You'll be alerted of any new content as and when it goes out. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you very much indeed for your support in this endeavour. Little bit of housekeeping. I always like to try and get this bit out the way. If adult language should offend you, do not watch this, and you will probably hear that quite frequently during this one. We're going to discuss the Stateside Cup, match day 3 of 3, which took place at the Raymond James Stadium yesterday. Well, it was actually today, technically, as far as we're concerned. Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida. West Ham United 1, Crystal Palace 3. We finished bottom of the 3-team tournament without a win, without even a draw, let alone a win. I'm joined by Charlie. Charlie, obviously we had a little chat before we've gone live about what unfolded at the Raymond James Stadium, and I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Ultimately, it was a friendly, but I think there was enough there to suggest that there's work to be done.
Yeah, I'd agree. But I think we knew there was work to be done before the game had even kicked off, to be honest. We knew we were still missing certain areas of the team, and we obviously found out yesterday that Bowen had got some minutes in the game that no one knew had happened, but had apparently happened early in the day. So, and we'd actually won that game, so we just take the result of that one. But yeah, we knew there was holes that needed to be filled, and the squad wasn't ready, and kind of predicted that actually we're probably a little bit behind Palace. So what unfolded certainly showed that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start off with your thoughts on the starting 11. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this up because there may be people watching this that perhaps aren't aware of the actual personnel that took to the team. So just for everybody's convenience, let's get it up there. So this was the West Ham team. I'll just go full screen with that so people can see it. And tell you what, let me just get rid of that there so people can see it a little bit more easily. So that was the team that took to the pitch against Palace. So as you can see there, they've got it down now. There was a bit of a conversation last night or early hours of this morning. I was watching it on my phone because there was a little bit of a backdoor to watch it for free, despite the fact the club were charging, apparently. If you downloaded the official club app and you had an Android phone, it didn't charge you. So I thought, fuck it, I'm going to make hay while the sun shines. That's their problem, not mine. So I was sitting there watching it, and I had Hammer's chat. I had Gio on the match day watch along, and we couldn't work out, was it a back 4? Was it a back 5? Was it a back 3? They got it here as a back 3 of Cresswell left, Kilman central, and Mavropanos on the right, the centre backs. We then had a midfield 4, according to this. Emerson was the left wing back, Kufal was the right wing back, and the central midfield partnership was Soucek and Potts. Ward-Prowse and Kudus just slightly ahead of them. And then playing as the striker was Mikhail Antonio. And if we also just have a little look at the Palace lineup there, they lined up with Henderson in goal, back three of left to right, Riyad, Anderson, and Richards. Midfield quartet of left Mitchell, right Klein, Schlupp and Hughes in the centre. Jordan Ayew and Daichi Kamada, remember him from Eintracht Frankfurt a couple of seasons ago? They were just playing off of Odsonne Edouard, who was the striker. With those starting lineups, Charlie, what do you make of our starting lineup? Do you think that it's roughly, it should have been enough to take care of Crystal Palace, or do you think it was a little bit undercharged?
No, I think it was undercharged. I think there was obvious areas where if we were starting like that in the game against Aston Villa for the first Premier League game of the season, there'll be a lot of concern on the fan base, I think. I don't know Crystal Palace's starting 11 or best 11 off the top of my head, but roughly from what I do know, I think there was probably 4 or 5 players in their starting 11 who they wouldn't want in their first game of the season, starting 11. On ours, I think there's at least 8. I think Fabianski, Soufal, Creswell, potentially Mavropanos, Potts, although maybe not Potts. Who else was in there? Souček, Antonio. You probably 7 or 8 players there that I'd be a little bit concerned if they were starting our first game of the season. So it's not a surprise that the game went the way it went. But yeah, I think that there was a lot of second string to that team yesterday, and I think it showed from performance and the result, and just the cohesion, which we'll probably come on to, certainly in the back line, was concerning.
Yeah, I mean, we got off to the worst possible start within the first minute of the match. The Crystal Palace come down our left-hand side. The ball's pinging around. We're struggling to deal with it, in all honesty. The ball's crossed in. There's a header. Kufal waves his foot at the ball as it comes across him. He diverts it straight into the path of Tyrick Mitchell, who takes a touch. The ball sits up, and he just sort of like smashes his left foot through it. He gives Fabianski no real chance, to be honest with you. It was rank poor defending from all, if I'm being honest, but I am going to single out Vladimir Kufal because it was his sort of like lazy sort of wave of the foot, without, he's supposed to put his foot, clear your lines for fuck's sake. That was an absolutely shocking bit of defending from Vladimir Kufal. Oh, I don't know if you're on mute, Charlie, because I've got no sound coming through.
That may have been may have been me doing a cough on mute and then forgetting to take it off. The mistakes of live, eh? But
we can edit it out. It's fine.
Yeah, well, whatever. Yeah, but no, I think that shows exactly why 80% of the fan base are saying we need an upgrade in that area. We've obviously lost Ben Johnson, and yeah, hopefully we'll see some improvements in that area pretty soon.
Someone doesn't sound happy in the background.
I think someone wanted to make their way into the video, and their mother told them no pretty quickly.
Oh dear. So yeah, the worst possible start. Rank bad defending. I agree with you. I think it speaks volumes as to why we need to get a new right back in. Whether that's Aaron Wan-Bissaka, whether that's Kyle Walker-Peters, whether it's Nuasir Mazraoui or another. I think we just need to get an upgrade on what we've got and push Kufal onto the bench. Look, he can still do a job in certain situations, but I think, look, £5 million a couple of years ago, bargain signing, whatever happens from this point in, he's been a great bit of business, but everything has their time, Charlie.
Yeah, you can't say he's not been valued for money. He came in when we was desperate for a right back and has done a solid job. I don't think he's ever been amazing, and he's never been woeful. He is pretty much that 5 million middle of the road Premier League defender that's a steady ship. But yeah, I think there's limitations. There's always been limitations going forward. I think we're starting to see some of the frailties in the defence now that there's not 8 people around him in defence. We've obviously defended over the last couple of years with 2 banks of 4, a bank of 4, a bank of 5, whatever you want to be. And he's had a bit of protection there. But I think over these last friendly or so, he's getting shown up. And actually, he's not the only one, including our new £40 million centre-back, who we'll no doubt get onto.
Yeah. Just in case anybody is interested, I just put a link in the chat to the YouTube. In case there's anybody that's not seen the goals, you can go on to YouTube and there's the club's official highlights. I use that word in the loosest possible term as far as West Ham are concerned. Obviously, at 1-0 down, from that point on, I got to be honest, there were several more attacks that Palace had, and I'm just watching it now. I think it's Odson Adward had sort of cut inside. He went down. He was coming down our right-hand side. He cuts inside, gets a shot away with his right foot. Fabianski beats it away on the 7th minute. And then 9 minutes later, there's another attack that happens. Again, a smart save from Fabianski down low to his right. At this point, our goalkeeper was getting a bit of a working over. And if it hadn't have been for Fab, I've got to be honest, I think we could have been 3-0 down within the first 16 minutes, if I'm being honest with you, Charlie.
Yeah, at least. I think there's definitely, we could have been 2, 3, 4-0 down before we got given a goal, basically. And we've been really creative, I think, interesting. Obviously, later on in the game, we had a couple of little bits. Soufal hit the post from the tightest of angles. But yeah, so as you say, as for Fab, or better finishing on their part, we could have easily been 3-0 down before the break.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a concern when up to that point, and it may even be that ultimately, even sort of at the end, one of our best players, if not our best player, is a 39-year-old reserve goalkeeper. I do think that speaks volumes, and I think that is setting a few alarm bells ringing. If you're saying your best goalkeeper, your best player, is potentially your goalkeeper, who's not even your first choice, and his time is limited as far as a pro football is concerned, something's desperately wrong there.
Yeah, definitely. And there is guys in the team, certainly last night, that should be performing a lot better than they are. Mavropanos is going to be looking for a starting spot, or fighting for a starting spot this year. Kilman's certainly going to be starting, and well, hopefully he gets better as we get some players around him. But again, don't know what's happening with him. I would like to see him stay, but if he stays, he's going to be trying to fight for a starting spot. So we can say a lot about people not being ready yet, people not being up to speed, people not even playing yet. But there's certainly alarm bells that are starting to go off, despite the fact it's only a pre-season friendly. That ultimately we'll get to Aston Villa on the 17th of August or whatever it is, and it'll be a clean slate, and we'll go from there, and we'll judge them based on the performance from that day forward. But yeah, there's certainly, it's not been a scintillating pre-season where we can see exciting passages of play, exciting changes. I think there's certainly more concerns than there is excitement, but you just never know. It's pre-season.
Barry may well have a point on this one, but we'll cover this in a little bit more detail down the track. But Barry, I think that you make a decent enough point. I've not really seen that much in the way of James Ward-Prowse in pre-season. I mean, sort of little bits and pieces last season, corners, a couple of assists he got here and there, but free kick sort of maestro, I didn't really see it, and I'm not too sure that he's got the mobility that a modern central midfielder really needs in the Premier League. But we'll come on to that in due course. But just to sort of wind it on, so minute 21, despite the fact that up to that point we were probably living a charmed life to only be 1-0 down, we actually managed to get a goal. And it's funny because the move actually started in our penalty box. It was a Palace attack, but the ball's then cleared, and really it should have been dealt with by Anderson, but he's sort of like, it's lazy defending from him, and the beneficiary was Michail Antonio. Now, normally, I don't know about you, Charlie, and guys in the live chat, you can get involved in this as well. Normally, I find that when Antonio has plenty of time to actually sort of think about his finish, which he did in this situation, because obviously the ball's dropped to him quite a bit out from the goal. He's obviously charged on sort of like the edge of the penalty box and into it. That's usually when he fucks things up. He didn't. He had ice cold blood in his veins. He dispatched the ball past Dean Henderson, got the equaliser, and at that point you're sort of thinking, okay, this could be a little bit of a foothold in the match, a turning point. What did you make of the goal?
Yeah, I mean, it was a nice finish from Antonio. To say we created a goal or created an opportunity for ourselves is probably stretching it. I think we was handed the goal by Crystal Palace and a poor defensive mistake. As you say, Antonio usually is reliable when it's come straight at him. He's got one touch to think about it, or it's come off his backside, or that's usually where he doesn't fluff his lines. And then when he's got time to think about it, he's turns into Timo Werner, I think. But no, he done well. He showed that he's got a bit of sharpness to him, which you'd expect since he's not long stopped playing. He's obviously played in the Copa America with Jamaica, albeit I don't believe they went far in the competition. But it looked a little. It was a good finish. My biggest concern is the fact that we're barely creating anything for the other attackers. But he did nothing wrong. He did nothing wrong there.
No, in actual fact, just after we equalised, we had another attack very shortly after that. And although I've had a bit of a pop at Kufal for his defending, and I stand by that criticism absolutely, the ball drops to him. He's in the final third, and he manages to wrap his foot around the ball. He actually manages to, as the ball sort of like, if you can imagine, he's quite close to the byline, and he's wrapped his foot around it, and the curvature on the ball, it's actually managed to hit the bar. And then as the ball's dropped out, it's actually dropped out to, I think it was Kudus by the looks. No, Emerson, excuse me. Dropped to Emerson, but he's not managed to hit the target. And that was a bit of a disappointment. Again, it's one of those sort of what-if moments, sliding doors. Defender sort of did well to put him off, but ultimately I think he should have done better.
Yeah, I kind of looked at this a couple of times and I still can't really tell what happened. It looks like he just fluffs it wide, but it looked like a pretty good opportunity for Emerson, but obviously didn't take it, and Sufal did Sufal put in a good cross. Well, questionable seeing as
cross come shot.
Yeah, I don't think it was a shot, was it? It was either a poor cross or a good shot. I don't know. Depends how generous you want to be for him, but the fact that Emerson was our first player forward and central striker at that point basically is a bit weird. Not something we would have seen last year, that's for sure.
Well, we managed to get to the interval locked at 1-1, and I had hopes at that point that maybe Lopetegui was going to get into the players. He didn't look happy. I got to be honest. What I witnessed, he cut a very frustrated figure, I found, on the touchline. He looked far from happy with what was unfolding, despite the fact he went in at 45 with the scores level. But he was not a happy bunny on the touchline. But I'm sure he was even less happy 20 minutes after the restart, because that was when obviously Palace got their the goal that put them 2-1 up. The ball comes to Jordan Ayew. He's got Emerson just in front of him. He shapes to cross it on his left, and it sort of goes towards Jeffrey Schlupp, who's sort of like hanging around the penalty box. He's got two defenders either side of him, and you're sitting there thinking, as the ball comes in, really one of them needs to deal with it. Neither of them do, and he gets this sort of head. He gets his head to the ball. It loops over Fabianski. No real blame I can attach to Fabianski. The ball sort of like he gets his perfect looping header. It takes Fabianski out of the picture, but the defending was absolutely diabolical from where I'm sitting.
Yeah, and it wasn't the last bit of diabolical defending of the night either.
No.
It's definitely a concern. I think I said it in one of the previous videos that I think pre-season you do see some ropey defending. Defenders are not willing to put themselves into tackles or risk smashing into headers that they might not win and put themselves in danger of missing the first game or the first month of the season. So I think you do see pretty questionable defending in pre-season, so I'll hold my judgment until the Premier League starts. But yeah, it's certainly not great viewing at this point. And look, defending terribly what happened for both teams last night, so I don't think it's a coincidence. But yeah, you'd expect someone to be getting their head to that, someone to be putting a foot in. It's you can tell the defence is still getting used to the tactics and still getting used to working with each other. I don't think they've quite clicked at this point.
No, I wonder how much of what we're witnessing is a little bit of a hangover from the Moyes era. I mean, I don't mean to be funny or anything, but the majority of these players have had the last 4 or 5 years, most of them being coached on playing this low block sort of anti-football, if you will. And I just wonder if now you've got a new manager that's coming in and it's trying to get his ideas across, his style, his philosophy, and it takes time. You know, I've said that it's a little bit like muscle memory. You've got so used to doing something a certain way that when you're trying to do things a different way, it feels uncomfortable and you kind of resist and you revert to type. And I'm wondering if it's remnants of the bygone manager.
Possibly, but then you saw some terrible defending from Max Kilburn, and he wasn't involved in that.
That is very true.
He got turned onto his arsehole by whoever it was, Schlupp or Jordan Ayew, or
it was.
We're not talking about Maradona.
Yeah, I mean that was the end of the game. I mean that came 3 minutes after they go 2-1 up. You know, it's basic rule 101 of defending. Okay, we've conceded a goal. Let's keep it tight for the next 5-10 minutes. Let's just sort of like get a little bit of a foothold again. Go again. Let's try and sort of retrieve the situation. But 3 minutes later, as you say, it's a goal that optically did not reflect well on Max Kilman, the £40 million investment from Wolves. Naya Figuer sort of like waves his foot at the ball, tries to sort of clear it. The Palace player charges the ball down. It drops down then to sort of like where Odsonne Edouard and Max Kilman are sort of stood. And Edouard just just lazily sort of flicks the ball out. Kilman seems to be completely bamboozled. Edouard just goes around him like he's not there. And then sort of, you know, Fabianski then tries to come out to narrow the angle, but he couldn't do anything really about the finish from Edouard. He just sort of steers it into the sort of like Fabianski's lower right corner, makes it 3-1, kills the game, wins the stateside cup for Palace. So they'll have an open top bus parade around Croydon, I'm sure, when they get back.
Might get set on fire.
But as I say, our £40 million investment. Look, it's a pre-season friendly. I'm not going to say that he should be sacked, but that was rank poor defending. He should be doing better, shouldn't he?
Yeah. Caveat everything with it's a pre-season friendly. We're not going to hold it against him at this point, but that's not tactical. That's not getting used to people around you. That's an individual error of massive proportions. If it's in the Premier League, obviously it's not, but yeah. It's a big concern, especially when a lot of Wolves fans and Wolves fans that I know and speak to were saying basically they don't have pence down for 40 million. I'm not judging it at this point, value for money, etc. But yeah, there is a little bit part of me that's thinking, what have we paid for here? He doesn't seem like a £40 million defender at the moment, both defensively and actually with his feet. I don't think he's been all that. I think Agard has been better with his feet all pre-season, to be honest. So there's a slight concern there, and you can totally understand why Lopetegui's looking for another centre-back, whether that be Tadebo or Soleil or whoever else that we're being linked with. But yeah, I mean, I've seen a note today, I think it came from X, or potentially not, if don't hold me to that may be wrong, but I'm sure I saw someone today suggesting that we've had conversations with Zuma about terminating his contract just to get another centre-back in. So you can tell the club and Steiden and Lopetegui are desperate to get a new centre-back. Hopefully that's in the next, 2 weeks before Villa.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can get some business done in that regard, because I think you're right. I think that I'm a little concerned that we've got obviously Kilman. I'm not going to sort of go in two-footed on him after one, error in a pre-season friendly that ultimately means fuck all. But Aguirre made noises not so long ago that he wants to get the fuck out of Dodge, and I'm not too sure whether that's still the case or not. And then we've got Kurt Zuma, who has his peanut brittle knees that are getting progressively more brittle by the very day, and with every movement he makes over a football pitch. And Mavropanos, who he's okay, but he's not really what I would class as he shouldn't be your one of your two first picks as a Premier League centre half. I don't believe. I think we can do better.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I think I've just called him Calamity. I think that was my nickname for him last season. But yeah, Mavropanos, good backup. I don't think he's ever should be a starter or going to be a starter. And I think that's probably where the big caveat is with the concern around Max Kilman at the moment. He's playing with Soufal right back or next to him on the right, which hopefully won't be the case for Villa.
We're not passing judgment, but
I think we have clarified
enough
that we're not judging now, but we're just dealing with what we got in terms of the game that was played last night and the last couple of games. But Kilman's obviously playing with Souček, Ward-Prowse and Freddie Potts in front of him, and there's no slight on Freddie Potts, but I don't think he'd be wanting them three in front of him in the Premier League game. He wouldn't be wanting Soufal beside him. Same for Mavropanos, definitely same for Creswell. And not that Fabianski did anything wrong, but he's probably rather have a World Cup winner. I think Ravero's got a World Cup winner behind him. So there's a lot more to come into that defensive midfield to solidify it up a little bit. So yeah, see how it goes. But it wasn't great viewing last night, that's for sure.
Well, even after we went 3-1 down, just looking on the highlights reel, there was another save that Fabianski made, a smart save down low to his left. Again, that could have been 4-1. But however, I mean, and the Bowling Lounge mentions him in his conversation there about Luis Guilherme. He actually did have an opportunity himself later, after sort of like in the dying embers of the game, pretty much. But he came on. He had an opportunity. He went down 84th minute. He goes down our right hand side, their left. He takes the ball into the penalty box. He has a right foot shot. It goes wide of the opposite upright. But it was a bright little bit of play by the young Brazilian. How much we see of him in the Premier League season, I'm not entirely sure, but it was a bright little cameo from him. But ultimately, it was too little, too late, unfortunately. And the game petered out, and we ended up losing it 3-1.
Yeah, I think we'll actually see quite a lot of him in the Premier League. I think, barring the starting attackers, I don't think there's much depth. Well, certainly at the moment there isn't much depth, is there? So if you, for example, assume that you're going to go Alvarez, Paqueta, Kudus in the middle, Bowen on the right, Somerville left, and whoever we sign up top, there's not really a lot of attacking depth on the bench. So I think Guilherme, or whatever you say his name, is probably going to be one of the first attackers off the bench, and that could be for the left winger, the right winger, the striker, one of the attacking midfielders. So I actually think it'll get quite a lot of game time this season. I'm quite excited to see how much he changes and develops in the next 12 months. I think it was a bright spark yesterday, but as you say, only had, half an hour, not even that.
Just in case anybody wants a little bit of statistical information, I will share this with you. I've managed to cobble this together. Go full screen with it as well, just so you can get your teeth into that, guys and girls at home. So the statistics on the left are Crystal Palace. The statistics on the right are our very own West Ham United. As you'll see there, we had a very unusual amount of possession for us that we've been used to over the last couple of years of 54%, which is great. Unfortunately, when you look at the shots on target, and the duels won statistics, they tend to paint a picture that we are a little bit undercooked. Now, I mean, you said yourself about the midfield. I'm not entirely convinced that Souček, Ward-Prowse and Potts will be the component parts of it. I suspect that at least 2, probably 3 of those are going to come out. For me, I think that Souček, again, same as his international compatriot, he's been a decent value for money signing, and he's put his body on the line on more than one occasion. And I feel very sad that I have to say this, but he's not a frontline Premier League regular player anymore. I'm sorry, he just isn't.
No, I agree. I don't think, but I think he could be a brilliant super sub.
Yeah.
Whether we're 1-0 down, 1-0 up, depending on the situation, I think he could be exactly what we need off the bench. A bit of trouble in the air, a bit of trouble in either box. And I think he could potentially do a job for us this season, just not starting. I think you're right. I think come Aston Villa, none of them 3 will be starting. I'd be very surprised to see any of them. I think potentially we could see one of them go out, be sold in terms of either Ward-Prowse or Souček. Potentially, I would suggest probably not, but I know there's a lot of talk about us trying to sell some players, so we'll see. I wouldn't be shocked at all to see Freddie Potts go out on loan. I think a championship loan will probably be good for him, given that he spent a lot of last season in mid-table of League One with Wickham. So, bit of a step up, bit more competitive football that means more financially and everything else that comes with it. I think will be good for both Potts and Orford. Earthy potentially as well, depending on what sort of depth we can get in. But yeah, I'd be surprised to see any of them starting the first game of the season.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of players that come in for the Villa game. I'm not overly fussed about the Celta Vigo game, and I'm guessing from the ticket sales, there's a lot of people that feel the same way as me, funnily enough. But I can see obviously the first game against Villa, you're going to probably have Fabianski making way for Areola. Cresswell, I'm pretty convinced won't be involved. I'm not convinced that Souček, Potts and Ward-Prowse, like I say, I suspect that at least 2 of those, possibly all 3 of those, will be replaced for the Villa game. And depending upon signings that we've got to go, does Soufal make way for Wan-Bissaka? Does Antonio make way for Duran or Fuck Rug or whatever? Sorry, that's his name from now on. Nicholas Fuck Rug.
I hope you sign him now, just so you log on every time and you Nicholas Fuck Rug.
But Somerville's going to come in, possibly another centre back, possibly Guido Rodriguez, Jared Bowen, Lucas Paquetá. So what we saw last night, I'm not overly concerned. I've got a few little reservations about some players. I wonder whether the squad's depth is maybe what we think it is.
Yeah, I just don't think there isn't depth there now. I think there possibly will be depth there come the start of the season, but I don't think we're going to be all too keen to use that depth this season. I think where obviously it's been said a lot, but the whole the process of Lopetegui coming in, changing the way we play, it's a more than a one window change. I think we'll do a lot of that change in terms of the starting 11 this year, but I think the bench and the squad will be quite a large drop off. But if that's what we have to do for a year, that's what we have to do, and then go again next summer. But yeah, I think as you sort of alluded to, the starting 11 come even next week. I think the starting 11 next week will be almost entirely different from what we saw last night. So no concerns at this point, but yeah.
Just be a shame that they're playing in front of maybe 10,000 people if they're lucky.
Yeah, I'll be there with a couple of mates.
You might be one of the only ones. You'll have plenty of seats to choose from.
Sounds like it, yeah. We're spread out. And
even the Villa game. You know what? We was talking yesterday and you said about you hadn't had any text messages for the Villa game. Yeah. I had one. Did I get one today? Let me just have a look. I'm pretty sure I got a text message today about that, Charlie.
Just had a look. I didn't get one, so I guess
Yeah,
they don't want me to bring any of my mates.
Here it is. No, sorry. Yeah, join us for Julian Lopetegui's first Premier League match, London Stadium, Aston Villa, Saturday 17th of August. Be quick to secure your seats with limited tickets still available on general sale. Thanks, but no thanks. The fucking desperation seeping through.
Yeah, but that's what happens when you put prices at £100 a ticket or whatever it is. It's just crazy.
Silly
Bad
cunts,
enough
honestly.
paying $6.50 for a season ticket, but at least you get a bit of value there. But yeah, I'll be there next week. I support the protest, support the concessions, save our concessions campaign, but just so it works, as we sort of said before. But next week is the only one to take the 2-year-old to, so we're going to be taking him and spend a bit of time with the little one and go and see some shit football and get him used to it for the next
You got
80 years of his life.
Yeah, that's it. Prepare him. That's it. See, I had the worst start, really, because I went to a game where we won 10-0, and I was then conditioned into thinking that's what we did. Fuck
Never
me.
been the same since.
No,
Although we had a 9-0 fairly recently, didn't we? Wasn't Wickham. I'm sure we had a 9-0 in the cup.
You're on about 8-0, I think it was the
8-0,
Macclesfield, wasn't it?
Macclesfield, yeah, that
Was
sounds
it Ian
right.
Garner scored a couple?
It was at home, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I think
that was the closest we've got since.
Oh, we got a question from the Bowling Lounge. That's good. If anybody wants to put in any questions, I know this is a match review, but fuck it. Bearing in mind the narrative last year, we had a real coach. What could this team achieve with the additions to the squad, and what should we achieve this season? Charlie?
I think it's a very good and very fair question. I think I was saying it, and a lot of other people were saying it last year, that team could have had, well, with a proper coach, should have been achieving the same, playing better football. And I think that's the case this season. I think we should expect similar results in terms of league finish, but whilst playing more interesting football and not falling asleep in the seat every week. I think depends what you're asking. If you're asking what is a acceptable good season, I think playing some nice football, enjoying watching West Ham again, and finishing top 10. I think that's an acceptable first season for Lopetegui. What would I say is a good season and achieving all the targets? I think we're spending money like majority of other clubs can't do at the moment, aren't doing, not just the Premier League, but obviously around Europe as well. So I think every season we should go into it with the aim that we need to get top 7 or top 8 or whatever it is now to get into Europe. I don't really care what Europe it is. We had some interesting trips around weird and wonderful parts of Europe for Conference League and Europa League games. So yeah, I think going into every season at the moment we should be expecting or aiming to achieve European qualification with that. Whether that's through winning a League Cup, winning an FA Cup, getting 6th, 7th, potentially 8th, depending on how the tournaments go. Then yeah, just get to the end of the season, get into Europe next season. Then I think that's been a successful season.
In terms of my answer to that, Bowling Lounge, so if we'd have had, as you termed it, a real coach last season, what could we have that team have achieved? Because obviously the team then was different to the team now in some regards. What could we have achieved? Well, look, I think we could have played in football that didn't sort of like almost send me to sleep in the Sheffield United game, and that's no exaggeration. That actually happened. I think that we'd have had a fresher squad at the end of the season, because I think it was also fairly apparent that the wheels started to come off. There was a few players that were just running on fumes because he flogged the same 11 virtually week on week. And in the last part of the season, they didn't really have that much left. So that, I think a proper coach would have been making adequate changes in starting 11s, in-game substitutions to give players sort of like, most opportune rest periods and things like that. Possibly we might have gone further in the Europa League as a result of that. who knows? We did, in fairness, come across the team that ended up winning the Bundesliga and made it to the final, albeit they lost to an Atalanta team that contained a striker that we had 12 months earlier. But there you go. Possibly we could have pushed a little bit harder and for a little bit longer for those European berths. Yeah, all those things. And as far as this season's concerned, probably, again, we probably have to give Lopetegui a bit of a leeway in terms of this season, because there's probably I reckon it's probably going to take a conservative estimate, probably 2 or 3 transfer windows minimum, for him to shape that squad into his image. It's going to take time, but unfortunately the Premier League isn't a patient animal. It just isn't. So in terms of this season, I think if we can, like you say, top half minimum, if we can sustain some sort of pressurized run for the upper echelons, top 8, maybe even top 6, to the latter stages of the Premier League season, and maybe chuck in, as Matt says in the chat, maybe a cup run. I'm not particularly bothered whether it's League Cup or FA Cup. I think for me that would represent progress.
Yeah, and I think the only other thing to say on that is potentially, and I'm not going to say like a lot of people, youth players have to be involved. I know there's a lot of calls for certain youth players to be involved in the first team, and I'm not necessarily saying that has to be part of the success criteria this season. I think what does need to be considered and sort of analysed at the end of the season is the development plan of said youngsters, whether that does look like staying in the under-23s, whether that looks like going out on loan. We need to get to the end of the season and see an Earthy, a Potts, an Alford, Marshall, although I'm starting to get a little bit concerned that he's not going to ever fit the Premier League, but we'll leave that for another day. We need to see those guys have developed in the last 12 months, or the next 12 months. So, yeah, whatever that means going out on loan, I would suggest. But hopefully they've come on in 12 months' time. That would be part of the success criteria.
Fair enough. Any final thoughts before we knock it on the head, Charlie?
No, I don't think so, mate. I think it seems a bit, I don't know about you, but it seems a bit of a weird pre-season. I feel like the games usually come a bit thicker and faster. We usually have sort of a couple of games a week or 3 games
Saturday, Wednesday sort of thing.
Yeah, it's been really quiet. I guess it's because they're over in America and whatnot, but the games have been on stupid times and stupid waterlogged pitches. But yeah, it'd be interested to see what the lineup's looking like at the London Stadium next week. I think it'll be pretty different, and I think pretty similar to what will be the lineup for the Aston Villa game. So that'll be interesting to see. And I think from that point we can probably start discussing where we're going to be this season.
Absolutely. Well, before we knock it on the head, ladies and gentlemen, there's 27 of you watching live at the moment. We've got 19 likes on the stream. Please, before we wrap it up, put a like on the stream. It really does help the old algorithms as far as YouTube's are concerned. I don't understand how it works myself. I'm pushing sort of 49 years of age. But as it says there, please don't forget to like, comment on, and share this stream to your social media platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. We've hit 703 subscribers, and thank you very much for that, each and every one of you. And don't forget to hit the bell icon for alerts on new content. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you very much indeed for your support in this matter. Charlie and I are going to disappear, but don't forget to give the Iron Supporting Food Banks charity your full and undivided support. You'll find the link in the description section on YouTube. Come on, you Irons. We'll see you for the review for the Celta Vigo game. Take care.
The West Ham Massive are pleased to support Iron Supporting Food Banks. They are a group of West Ham fans and friends inspired by the work of other football food banks around the country. They collect food and cash donations for a Newham Food Bank in Beckton, who supplies sub-distribution centres in the borough 7 days a week and hand out several hundred 3-day emergency food packs every month to families in need. They are also working with other groups to improve conditions for vulnerable adults and children in the Newham community. You can help by making a donation to their Just Giving page. You will find the link to this in the description section of the video details in this stream. Thanks for your support. Come on, you Irons.
Massive. Ham of Wrestling.